we've determined by a coin toss that Shirley Ringo will give the first opening statement. So, Shirley Ringo, go ahead.
Thank you, Lee, and good evening to everybody out there. I want to thank Lee and KRFP for hosting this dialogue this evening. And for listeners, this is your opportunity to clarify the positions on some issues between my opponent, Ken DeVries, and myself. As Lee mentioned, we do have a new legislative district this year with Latah County combining with Benoit. Ken is a candidate who lives just outside of St. Mary's, and I live just outside of Moscow. I have served 6 terms in the Idaho legislature, representing District 6, Latah County. In that position, I've gained experience that I think is useful. I've had the opportunity to serve on committees, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, the Transportation Committee, Commerce and Human Resources, Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, which checks on the efficiency of legislative processes and suggests that directions that we might take, and a Northwest Fisheries Task Force Committee. So this has, I think, given me an opportunity to enrich my background and knowledge and serve constituents better. I think I have shown the ability to work across the aisle with members of both parties to try to accomplish things for constituents, and I think I have shown that I respond to the needs of my constituents and try to help them solve problems. So I hope to serve you for another term, but that will be up to you, the voter.
Okay, that was Shirley Ringo and her opening statement, and now we'll go to Ken DeVries and his opening statement.
Greetings, and thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody, too, for having us on here tonight. I'm Ken DeVries. I'm running for the legislature, Seat B. I am challenging Shirley Ringo for her seat. I am an independent businessman, a software consultant. I've been self-employed with i3 Consulting, my company, for, since 2003. Been in software for over 25 years. I live with my wife, Yvonne, in rural Benoit County. I'm a bit of a small-time rancher. I've got 3 kids, aged 21, 18, and 11. My oldest boy attends U of I as an international relations major, and my middle son goes to NIC as a music major. I'm running on a campaign of economic development, including sound business-friendly, regulatory, and taxation policies. It should be an interesting evening tonight. Shirley and I are definitely opposites in many ways. This is my first race for public office. There are many issues before us, things ranging from education to taxation. We have Obamacare, the Supreme Court decision, all kinds of things to discuss. I tend to be a pretty strong states' rights advocate. You might call me a liberty Republican. I don't know how much more I can go on about myself, but I think that'll wrap it up for my opening statement, and I guess we can take your questions.
All right. So once again, the phone number at the station is 892-9200, and we look forward to hearing from listeners tonight. That's 892-9200. So far, the phone lines haven't lit up, and we'll go to Ken DeVries for the first question. And I'll just go to the backup list. Do you support health care nullification that was proposed in the state legislature during the last session? So we'll give 1 minute for each question.
Yes, I do, because I don't believe that you will find health care mentioned anywhere in the Constitution at all. It's not the federal government's job to be mandating health care one way or the other. Jefferson was very clear about how to handle usurpations of power by the federal government. He spelled it out very clearly in the Kentucky Resolution of 1798, where he basically said usurpations of power on the part of the federal government were to be handled by nullification at the state level. We must remember that the Constitution is really a compact between states, and the federal government is an agent thereof. It is not superior to the states.
Okay, that was Ken DeVries, and now we'll go to Shirley Ringo on healthcare nullification.
Well, in general, I don't support the notion of nullification. not ready to fire on Fort Sumter again. And I definitely support the notion that we should have health care accessible to everybody. And I think in order for such a system to work, there are times when we have to have government programs to step in and assist those people who aren't able to afford the care that they need. I think for a long time in our nation's history, we've tried to come up with a plan for health care that would be better than the system that we find ourselves using now. And I think that the Affordable Health Care Act is a first step in that direction. And I look forward to implementing it and improving it as we go.
And that was Shirley Ringo. We'll go to the phone lines for the next question. This one will go to Shirley Ringo first. KRFP, you're on the air.
Yeah, with the presidential debates happening and the general debates in politics today, I find them really watered down. There's one issue that seems to not get touched a lot. I hear Second Amendment rights. I hear all this stuff about a woman's right to choose. All these topics, including everything we talk about economics all the time, it's all null and void if we don't get climate change. We're drifting in a really bad direction. So that being a statement, I do believe in climate change. I want to ask, number one, do both of our candidates believe that climate change is a human-caused effect? And two, if they believe there is anything that they can do or should do to stop it as a politician or as a human being.
Okay, we'll go to Shirley Ringo on that first. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I do believe that climate change is human-caused, and I believe that it's very serious, and if we don't act soon, we may find that we've gone beyond the tipping point. So while we do try to be business-friendly as we can, I think that all of those things have to be weighed against precautions against environmental disaster. And it may probably will require that we have more regulations, but we have to do something to turn this around. I mean, we see all this evidence of the ice fields going away and diminishing at the North Pole, and I think there's plenty of indication that we're in trouble. So I think it's a very significant problem, and we need to act on it.
That was Shirley Ringo, and now Ken DeVries.
I think within the question of climate change, you really have two issues. One is the climate warming, and the second question is mankind causing it? I won't argue the fact or the idea that the Earth may be getting warmer. I mean, NASA has shown that the planets Jupiter and Mars are also warming, and we don't have technological civilizations there. But the second question is mankind causing it? And to me, it's a scientific question that you lack a viable sample size for. And what I mean by that is that you would need a track record of previous civilizations and their effects on the warming or cooling of the climate in order to draw any kind of conclusion in that regard. Now, obviously, that's not possible since we're the only civilization that we know of. That's basically a sample size question. So any debate as to whether or not mankind causes global warming or not lacks enough scientific data.
Okay, that was Ken DeVries. The phone number is 892-9200. That's 892-9200. The next question will go to Ken DeVries. I'll go to my list right now. What impact do you think the rising cost of incarceration is having on Idaho's budget? And do you have any ideas for how to deal with that?
That's a question I haven't really been asked before. I'm not terribly familiar with what incarceration costs or used to cost, but like everything else, I'm sure the cost goes up. One of the ways that we could possibly do that would be to put the inmates to work in some way. A lot of talk is done, regarding bringing in The whole argument about illegal aliens being necessary to, do jobs that we wouldn't do, et cetera, et cetera. Perhaps one answer would be to put the prison population to work doing those jobs. But you kind of surprised me with this one. Hadn't really anticipated it. That'd be about the best I can give you.
And that was Ken DeVries, and now Shirley Ringo.
Well, thank you again for the question. Definitely the cost of incarceration is going up, and since we have finite resources with which we can work, when that cuts into our budget, we're spending less on more productive things. So I think it's something that we really need to look at. We are making some progress, I think, with alternative courts like the problem-solving courts, the drug courts, the mental health courts, and so on. And that type of thing helps us, I think, do some preventive measures that can keep people out of our prisons. But we need to keep studying opportunities to do community-based treatment and make investments that keep people from reaching the point of being incarcerated. We know that people that don't finish high school are more likely to end up in prison. So I think we can study and make progress with those preventive measures.
Okay, that was Shirley Ringo. And the next question, we have two callers on the line, and we'll go to the first call first. So this goes to Shirley Ringo, KRFP. You are on the air.
Hello. I heard Mr. DeVries say that the Constitution doesn't mention health care. I'm wondering if he's aware of the preamble, which says providing for the domestic welfare. This is in regard to health care. So I'm wondering if, I presume he thinks that health care is not a component of domestic welfare, and if he agrees with that, and if not, well, what is a component of that and what is not a component of that?
Okay, and we're going to stick with our format and go to Shirley Ringo first and then give Ken DeVries a chance. So, Shirley?
All right. Well, since that was directed to Mr. DeVries, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time answering it, but I do believe that it is a responsibility and really, as you mentioned, a constitutional responsibility to provide for the care of the citizens of the United States. And we like to have a system where people can actually afford to do that themselves, but costs do become prohibitive. For some people, the cost of insurance is prohibitive, and I'm not about to think that it's okay to deny treatment to somebody. So we need to look for ways that we can pick up that treatment for people that are temporarily in a position where they can't handle it themselves, and even if they're more than temporarily in that position, I think that we can't deny treatment.
That was Shirley Ringo, and now Ken DeVries.
The Constitution itself is an enumeration of limits on federal power. That's basically what it is. And you have several clauses in the Constitution, like the Commerce Clause, the Welfare Clause, and the Supremacy Clause, which people like to claim is a circumventing of the limits placed on the enumerated powers. That's really not what they're there for. The Welfare Clause is really meant to operate within the enumerations, not outside of it. So you can't justify, it wouldn't make any sense to put a set of limitations on activities and then give the federal government carte blanche to go around it. So I don't think that's what the original intent of the founders was. I do not think health care is to be found in the Constitution. So, no.
Okay, that was Ken DeVries. You're tuned to KRFP Moscow. We have another caller, I do believe, and this question will go to Ken DeVries first. Hello, you're on the air.
Is this me?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, Mr. DeVries, you've sent in an email to the local GOP organization this afternoon that, quote, KRFP is solidly behind enemy lines, unquote. That type of rhetoric may be good to fire up your base, but has little to no effect on positive and constructive solutions in government. Can you please tell us what other organizations you see as being behind enemy lines, and whether or not you plan to go to voice you to represent all of us, or just people that share your own political beliefs?
Well, I think that both sides are guilty of making statements that are somewhat humorous and somewhat meaningful. Obviously, I'm sitting here in KRFP right now. Everybody's friendly, but the walls are covered with philosophies and that I take issue with. Now, in terms of representation, I represent a certain set of values. Those values are individual liberty, freedom, personal responsibility, freedom from government intrusion into my private life and yours. And so in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, the values that are actually hanging here on the walls of KRFP aren't necessarily mine. We might find some things we agree on, but chances are not a lot, I would think.
Okay, and that was Ken DeVries, and I'll give Shirley Ringo a chance on that.
Well, I'm sure that Mr. DeVries was saying that with some humor in mind, but I do think it's a shame when we view each other with varying political views as the enemy. And truly, over the years, we all know, I think, that this country has become more and more polarized. I was thinking the other day, since I'm old enough to remember this, way back when President Kennedy said he had the goal of putting a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and how both parties embraced that project and moved forward to try to get it done, and what an exciting thing that was for all of us. And I'm afraid today, if a president said that, the members of the opposing party would be looking for ways to prevent him from succeeding. So even though we may say those things tongue-in-cheek, I think that it also shows an underlying problem that we do have as a nation, and we want to make sure that we do try to move away from being so polarized so that we can try to problem solve and work together.
KRFP Moscow, and we have Shirley Ringo and Ken DeVries in the studio, two candidates running for Seat B in the Idaho Legislature. We have two callers on the line. We're going to go to line one first. KRFP, you are on the air.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for taking my phone call. I come from a family of teachers, and certainly opposed to the Luna laws. And I realize the importance or the significance of the vote that's going to take place here soon. My question for both candidates is, if the Luna laws are defeated, what is your vision, or what's the course of action to restore funding and the quality of teaching in our classrooms?
Okay, and that'll go to Shirley Ringo first.
Okay, I'm not sure whether to focus on the vision of what to do if they're defeated. I think I'll just start with that, because one thing that I would criticize about the process or lack of it that led to the Luna laws was that it was totally top-down. It didn't involve legislators. It didn't involve the State Board of Education. It certainly didn't involve teachers and the members of the community, all of whom are important stakeholders. So when these are defeated, as I hope they will be, my vision would be to regroup by getting the stakeholders together to talk about the direction which we should take and get buy-in so that people feel generally that we're moving in the right direction. And with that, I think it should be easier to get the funding to support what we would be trying to accomplish.
And that's Shirley Ringo. Now we'll go to Ken DeVries.
Well, as you might expect, I'm on the other side of the table from Shirley. I support the Luna initiatives primarily because I am for putting technology in the classroom. I want negotiations to be held in an open forum, and I think pay for performance is a good thing. It works in the private sector. It ought to work well in the public sector. Should the initiatives be defeated, that's a topic that's going to come up, obviously, in the next legislative session, and I would have to walk into that with an open mind at the time. I can't sit here now and say I would do this or that. I think we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. I do think that we do need some education reform, But I also think that there's some room to talk with the other side in it. Are the Luna laws perfect? 75 to 80% of it I agree with. 85% maybe. Logistical issues are probably somewhat in there too.
And that was Ken DeVries. We got both lines full here at 892-9200. We'll go to the person who's been waiting through the entire last question. So you are on the air. If you're still there. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your question for Ken DeVries and Shirley Ringo.
Okay, I was wondering whether or not we could ever settle the argument about whether climate change can be proven or not. Could we say that it's a good idea in our human interest to take care of our environment and the natural cycles? And I would like to know what the candidates think about that's an important thing, and how it might work together with environmental interests, with economic interests, or if either of the candidates think those two things have to be mutually exclusive and economic interests be prioritized over environmental interests, or how we can create jobs that also help save our environment.
Okay, thanks for your call, and we'll go to Ken DeVries first on that one.
Okay, as I stated before, whether or not it can be proven is a matter of statistical sample size from my perspective. Other than proving it with valid statistics, and I'm not talking about whether the Earth is warming or not, it's a post hoc ergo propter hoc argument. You know, the chicken crows before the sun comes up, so therefore the sun comes up because the chicken crowed. You know, the term environmentalist can be used many ways. I own a lot of acreage, well, not a lot, 170 acres out in rural Benewah County. I like it pristine. I like it well taken care of. I'm a firm believer in being good stewardship of our environment. I don't like it when people come onto my land and trash it up, or my neighbors, you know, trash up their place or whatever. That goes for sportsmen or people enjoying the outdoors or whatever. Are they mutually exclusive? No. I think we need to be good stewards and yet at the same time provide a good business background and environment for our businesses.
And that was Ken DeVries. Now we'll go to Shirley Ringo on that question.
Well, I still do maintain that we have plenty of evidence that of global warming, and I think that our concern about that should be a high priority. However, if we simply take the direction that we're going to, that there is economic opportunity in developing green jobs and practices that will be more environmentally friendly, and take some care. We certainly want to develop our economy, but I think that sometimes we are inclined to take shortcuts and decide that the economic development takes precedent over being careful stewards of the environment. So I just think as we move forward, we have to strike that balance. And I don't think that, one overrules the other.
A minute's up, and that was Shirley Ringo. And the next question will go to Shirley Ringo. This is to the person who's been waiting through a full question on the line. So KRFP, you're on the air.
Hi, my question is actually for Ken. I had read in the spokesman that he said he would abolish income tax and property tax, so I was just curious as to how he would put that into policy as a legislator.
Okay, we'll go to Shirley Ringo first to stick with format. So, Shirley?
All right, well, I'll give a shot at that one first because I have read that my opponent would like to abolish the income tax and the property tax, and that, of course, would be very problematic if a person really tried to do that, because the general fund in Idaho is more than half funded through the state income tax, and if we decided to abolish that, we would have to eliminate or seriously restrict programs that are very important to the welfare of the state. So I'll be interested to see how Mr. DeVries comments on that one.
Okay, and that was Shirley Ringo. Now Ken DeVries.
Here it comes. I am definitely against an income and a property tax. Income tax is basically says that your labor belongs to someone else. As for property taxation, property taxes basically reduce your property ownership to that of serfdom, because back in feudal times, if you did not pay the king your tribute off of whatever land you were supposed to be working, they took it away from you, and that's essentially what happens today. I cannot, and nor did I promise to eliminate either of those two. Obviously, one voice in the legislature doesn't amount to much at all. Would I like to see the state work to abolish those? Yes, I would, frankly. In terms of reducing state revenue, I think the state would need to abide by those things which are necessary and proper rules of government. And I think this is where Shirley and I would disagree as to what the proper role of government is, and that's a big topic.